Well, joining us now on the programme is founder of the International Network for Aid, Relief and Assistance, Arwa Damon. Thanks very much for being with us on the programme. First of all, let's discuss the idea then for this new plan that Israel says it's come up with to start trying to reopen some trade within Gaza to get some food in. I mean, do you have any faith in that plan?
I mean, look, let me backtrack for a second by stating that all of us within the humanitarian community have regularly said that Gaza needs not only humanitarian aid, but also commercial trade to be started up again. But the reality on the ground right now is that if it's only the commercial route that is opened and that there's eventually some sort of produce on the market, what are people supposed to buy that with? Who actually has an income in Gaza right now? So it's very much yet another unrealistic solution being put forward that actually can't really be branded as a solution because it is going to be grossly ineffective and fail to address the real crucial and critical needs. This is the very same thing that we're seeing with these airdrops that are ongoing now, and pretty much ever since they have started, they've actually not delivered a lot more than basically what a dozen food trucks would actually have delivered. There really is only one solution for Gaza, and that is for hundreds of trucks of humanitarian aid to be let into the Gaza Strip alongside whatever Israel decides to let in terms of commercial goods. Otherwise, we're going to continue to see people to starve to death.
I mean, critics have already accused Israel of kind of throwing it out there, if you like, as a new diversionary tactic to perhaps get people away from talking about the other issues.
Yes, and it wouldn't be the first time that we've seen these sorts of diversionary tactics being put into place by Israel. And quite frankly, up until now, they have all been very, very successful. One of the many reasons why we're seeing what's unfolding in Gaza unfolding today, with a growing number of people who are effectively dying of hunger-related issues growing every single day, and the ongoing bombardment of the Gaza Strip. It really boils down right now at this stage to the United States and whether or not President Donald Trump and the White House are actually willing to put the kind of pressure that needs to be put on Israel. Look, there's a reason why 600, senior former Israeli officials have sent a letter not to their own government, but to President Donald Trump. And among these 600 names, there are also the names of former Shin Bet and Mossad officers. And the letter is effectively saying that the war in Gaza needs to end because Hamas is no longer a threat. Hamas has been defeated. And so it begs the question that if 600 former Israeli officials, including very senior security officials, are declaring that Hamas is effectively gone, finished, and not going to be posing a threat to Israel, what exactly is the Israeli government's aim right now, other than to continue to starve and bombard the entire population of Gaza?
So do you think the answer then lies at this stage with the US rather than with Israel?
I think the answer all along has pretty much been in the hands of the United States. Right now, the Trump administration, and previous to that, the Biden administration, it is only the US that has the capacity to pressure Israel in the way that Israel actually needs to be pressured, because it is only the US right now, pretty much, if you take a look around, even Western countries and Israel's former allies, it's only America that is standing as strongly as it is with Israel. And it is, of course, America that provides Israel with the largest volume of defense funding, and also with weapons to include bombs and various other items, deadly items that Israel has within its arsenal. If Israel were to actually lose the US as its ally, it would really struggle to continue this current trajectory that it's on when it comes to how it's dealing with Gaza. And this is not necessarily something new at all. But up until this point, the US has really failed, which is why so many do view, myself included, the US as being complicit in the war crimes that are being carried out by Israel in Gaza.
Tell us how you would describe what the situation is like in Gaza now.
I never have been able to do that, not since I first set foot in Gaza well over a year ago, and I still cannot today. It is something beyond what even the best Hollywood producers and directors could imagine for an opening scene in some sort of zombie apocalyptic movie where everything has been reduced to rubble, and in the middle of the various different shades of gray and destroyed buildings, you have the listless, limp, slogging along bodies of young and old, searching through any scraps of garbage for a little bit of meal, or rushing as if they're part of some twisted hunger game towards the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation hubs that have been described and are in fact death traps, or towards any aid food convoy that is coming in, only to be met with gunfire. You have mothers, babies, children, the elderly, men who are all crying out of pain because they are hungry. You have people who are dying of communicable diseases, of infections, because their bodies are too weak to fight. How do you even begin to describe that? How do you even begin to justify that?
And you talked earlier on about how the aerial aid drops are not helping at all. Is any aid getting in that you're really seeing, and is it being distributed to those that need it at all?
Very little. Look, if we take a look, for example, at the number of aid trucks that got in yesterday on Monday, they're roughly 14% of what Gaza needs on a daily basis. If we count all of the aid trucks that have been let in over, say, the last month, that is pretty much what Gaza actually needs in a single day. And we're really not at a stage where we should be even saying, oh, okay, so the trickle is a little bit of a bigger trickle, because Gaza needs hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of aid trucks every single day for a very long period of time, for years even, to begin to reverse what has actually been happening. You don't just open a border and allow in a handful of trucks and say, look, we're reversing the impacts of severe malnutrition and severe starvation, because we're talking about weeks and weeks and weeks of people of all ages trying to sustain and trying to survive on a very, very limited number of calories, and bodies are quite literally wasting away. And who gets the most impacted initially by starvation and by malnutrition? It is children under the age of 5, and children and adults who have pre-existing chronic and congenital issues. Their bodies quite simply do not have enough protein, enough nutrients, enough anything to be able to keep their vital organs functioning. And we see them, and we have been seeing them, severely wasting away. The only way to reverse this is to allow aid in, is to deliver very specific treatments to avoid something that's called refeeding syndrome to those who are experiencing the impacts of malnutrition and starvation at its worst sort of stage on the spectrum, and then to allow for that aid to be sustained. The only way the chaos that we're seeing in Gaza when it comes to the arrival of aid convoys, the only way to sort of subdue that chaos is at that point when people know that they're not going to be deprived of aid again.
Arwa Damon, thanks very much for being with us on the programme today. Arwa Damon from the International Network of Aid, Relief and Assistance.